what advice would you give to fathers today in this modern world to help daughters grow into strong young women?
And to add to that, specifically, let's maybe talk about fathers who are maybe suspecting that their daughter may be going through that. If there is a different cultural upbringing, socioeconomic upbringing, anything that is causing a divide between the way they were brought up and the way they're trying to bring up their daughters.
There's so much awfulness in the world right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think daughters need fathers more than they've ever needed them today. But I don't think fathers and daughters have ever been more divided than they are today either. So bridge that gap, Hava. Fix fathers and daughters in just a couple of minutes. Just fix it, Hava. What would you, for fathers who are listening right now who are desperate, or for mothers who are desperate for something to share with their father and that man in their life who's raising that daughter with them, what would you tell them is one of the biggest pieces they can do right now to help those women out there, those daughters?
I think fathers underestimate the value in their words. They always seem to think that they just need to provide and just be that strong man that she looks up to. But sometimes a girl just needs to feel safe and they feel like they can talk to you. And that tower of a human being that you are, that is everything that a daughter looks up to, is amazing until something bad has happened to her. And that tower sometimes is a barrier from her thinking that you will understand or that you're even interested. I think there's a gap. One thing I definitely wish that my dad did was talk. He never talked. He never talked about anything. He never talked about his own pain. You know, even just sharing what he's gone through, he just couldn't do it. And in being like that, I never really got to know him. And because of that, I just had fear, or I just had, he won't care anyway, or just that he wasn't a person that I would go to. He's a person that you go to for things, for safety, for, you know, like if someone's hurt you and you know your dad's going to hurt them, you know, dad, someone did this to me. And you go to them for that. But once you're a little bit older and then you're going through something really tough, it's really hard to feel safe enough to actually speak to your dad. But I think men in general have so much pressure on them that it's really hard to play all the different roles that they have to play and to figure out how to be this great, amazing dad all the time when they are so tired from working, and especially now when money is just, it doesn't matter how much you work, you can't seem to have enough of it to pay your bills, to get by, to provide your family with food. And then it's like you're asking them to talk, to find a way to talk now as well, like they're tired. Do you know what I mean? They're tired from playing this role of this father figure. So it's a tough world for dads, I think. It's tougher for dads than it is for mums. People might not like me for saying that one, but it is a little bit tougher for dads when it comes to creating relationships with their children than it is for mums.
Well, it doesn't come innate to us, you know, like it's not obvious for me as a dad what a little girl needs emotionally, you know. You know, we can barely understand grown women. You know, they're confusing creatures enough as it is. And it's not for the lack of trying or the lack of intent or lack of love. It's just you're an entirely different being, you know, spiritually, emotionally, logically, you operate differently. And to apply that to a little girl with the additional complexity of responsibility and relationship and love and attachment and connection, it's very confusing. It's very confusing. And I think it's that confusion that makes us go silent, because we're afraid of making it worse. You know, I'm so afraid of, you know, disappointing and seeing that weird dynamic go where it's not quite good enough that sometimes it's just easier to check out.
Can I tell a story on this?
Yeah, go.
My oldest daughter, just to be clear, when I was 15, I wanted kids. I knew I wanted kids from 15 on. And I didn't dream of a son. I dreamt of like a daughter. I wanted a daughter. Because like something in me was like, I just want so bad to have a daughter and just show her the world and teach her. I have a son. He was the firstborn. I adore him with all my heart. But my oldest daughter, we have this special connection. When she came out, I held her, I played with her, and we were like best friends for the first 6-7 months. And then all of a sudden one day, she looked at me and she realized I was very, very different from her mom. and that I was not quite the same as mom and grandma, that I was something
Was
different.
it the beard that gave it away?
It was. I think it was, because I remember the moment. I remember the moment where she started having stranger danger with other people. And I remember the moment she looked up at me, and she looked at me, and then she looked down at my beard and looked at me and looked at my beard. And then
Wait a second.
all of a sudden she started crying. She started crying like uncontrollably. And she wouldn't let me hold her. She wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't talk to me for about like a year and a half, like 2 years. And I remember like when it first started, I thought, what did I do wrong? It was like grief. It was like, what happened? And I looked at my son, and he never went through that. He'd be climbing on me, punching me in the head. He was so happy. My daughter would not even hardly look at me. She wouldn't speak to me till she was about 3 years old. And then we had to start building trust slowly, where she was sure I wasn't going to eat her. And she's 6 now, and she's totally my buddy. We just took a whole 4-day trip together. We flew around. We had all kinds of fun. But it took so long to rekindle that relationship. And when my second daughter came along, exact same pattern. No. And my third daughter is here now, and she's 5 months old. And I know the clock is ticking, because in 2 months, she will not speak to me or play with me for 2 years. So there is this divisive wall between fathers and daughters. I know that many fathers have told me, maybe not always, but it comes down so hard. Mm-hmm. And fathers have to slowly, patiently rebuild that.
Well, and in a way, that's also the way that, humans are with God. At one point, we all just walk out on him and pretend he doesn't exist. And he just sits there and waits for us and just reminds to us that he's there. And then eventually we kind of have this rebuilding of the trust that happens. And I'm kind of curious if the same thing kind of happens as children go through different levels of puberty. Maybe, they get to like 12, girls get to 10, 12, they get to 16, they get to 24, 25, and then prefrontal cortex grows in, and there's these kind of returns to the relationship and reinventions. I'm not there yet. My daughter's almost 7, so I'm still in that stage. But I'm curious if that's what I'm really signing myself up for.
If you like this clip, I know you're going to enjoy the full episode. You can watch it right here.